So, my fellow RTS fans, did you think I wouldn't find more totally new real-time strategy games in development? Well, I did. So strap in, because I have a lot of them to show you this time, along with many updates on those you're already eagerly awaiting. A few games are about to leave early access, so I will mention those as well, and as always give you my recommendations for older ones you can buy right now on sale at Steam or Good Old Games. I wanted to start off with one of the totally new titles, but since I can almost feel your anticipation for an update on D.O.R.F, let's start there. Yes, the devs are live and well working hard on the game, and yes, there is progress to show. Specifically, they are replacing all the existing graphics of units and terrain, while also giving them a fresh shine thanks to the new light shadow system they have implemented. Infantry unit animations are another part of this game-wide upgrade, and a ton of work done now will save them time as they move forward and make new infantry units in the future. For anyone who is only now learning of D.O.R.F, I should explain that it is a throwback to the classic 3-faction base building and unit combat RTS game in both of how it looks and plays, but with a twist of logistics and infrastructure added to it. It will feature land, air and naval units, trench networks, massive factories, multi-turreted tanks, Zeppelin bombers, psychic warriors, base capture, and hopefully be a lot of fun for us all. As soon as there is more to showcase, I will make a new standalone video about it. Now it is time to see something totally new, because you know how the saying goes, if Homeworld 3 is bad, let's make our own. No? People don't say that? Well, they should, and this developer certainly did, and he is personally a big fan of Star Wars and Stargate. No, I didn't stalk the man, he wrote so on Reddit. You should be careful what you write there, you never know who is going to follow 10 links and find out. Just kidding. Anyways, Ascendance is a mix of RTS and 4X, because not only does the dev plan to have lots of spaceship combat, but also simulated economies, internal politics, and nuanced diplomacy, as you helm a spacefaring civilization and traverse a vast and seamless galaxy he's crafting. Since there will be a lot of gameplay elements, he's also planning on options to automate some functions of your stellar empire, if you don't prefer to micromanage every little detail personally. What interests me the most is he going to pull off the physical-based ship movement, fuel, crew and ammunition mechanics he plans on, as well as the weapons, tracking targets and using physical projectiles to shoot at them. It is a massive feature list, but if one guy made Manor Lords, why not Ascendance? And on the subject of ambitious games, how about we look at Gates of Hell Airborne DLC for Call to Arms. This is one game I am sorry I haven't managed to play yet, and which you mention in comments on my videos regularly. So this time the developers are adding a dozen single-player missions themed around the US Airborne divisions of paratroopers, which you can play in co-op as well. New environments are also being added, along with new vehicles for you to use in combat across France, Belgium, Netherlands and Germany. True enough, this isn't a full-on RTS, because it lacks base building and resource collection, so more a real-time tactics game. But if so many of my viewers play it, many more of you might be interested, let me know. One game I have played a lot of, and which is finally leaving early access along with bringing a campaign for its new and old players, is Diplomacy is Not an Option. A game which looks simple enough, and yet the developers have managed to reshape its core gameplay to fit half a dozen RTS subgenres in one game. The main single-player mode, released on 4th of October, will feature the complete story campaign, with 3 factions and different endings, promising to give you dozens of hours of gameplay. The main thing that made this game so fun for me are the massive 25,000 units limit, medieval and fantasy-based building mixed with survival and real-time combat, but with an active pause, and terrific superpowers which let you smack meteors into thousands of zombies, knights and other creatures, launching them into the sky. Massive scale is how you describe Beyond All Reason as well, and its developers just released a new trailer with an invitation for more RTS fans to join them on these battlefields, as the game is not only playable but also free to download from their official website, linked down in the description. There are new multiplayer tournaments which have prizes for you to win more and more often, considering its thriving PvP community, while PvE content lets you dive into the single-player scenarios, co-op versus AI, and the two expansive survival/tower defense modes where you defend against alien raptors and zombified robots. I have been hooked on it for years now and play it more than I should, considering all the videos I need to produce. One of the most anticipated RTS games in development, judging by the number of views on videos about it, is definitely Dustfront, and I was able to convince its developer to share the newest gameplay footage with us. The most important news about this indie gem, which has one of the most unique art styles, is that a lot of work has been done on the game this year and the developer is preparing something large to show us. He didn't specify what. Let's dream big and hope for a demo. In other news, he improved the combat system so that destroyed vehicles leave wrecks behind, but those can be destroyed by artillery fire or under treads of bigger vehicles. On top of that, wrecks will drop scrap, which is a resource in this game, after their HP is exhausted. I seriously can't wait to start playing this one. For more info on it, I have left a link to my full showcase. I really think we need a less serious game to make us smile, so let's look at a totally new game titled The World of Stickman Classic RTS. It certainly looks goofy, with its cartoon style and bright colors sell it even more, but the developer aims to make sure we have solid combat mechanics between swordsmen, pikemen, archers, ballistae and catapults in great battles. He already has a demo available for you to try on Steam and plans to have a campaign in the full game, with unique civilizations for us to play with like Romans, Egyptians and Vikings. Multiplayer and online modes are a part of these plans, and the game does have base building and development of your own settlement, which requires gathering resources, upgrading buildings and gaining access to new units and technologies. Do remember to wishlist some of these games you like and help these developers.
Commander, Captain Cragen, I have boots on the ground. The rest of the squad, though, I saw them go down toward the west.
Tempest Rising, on the other hand, certainly does not require more publicity, as it has been in front of us for several years now, and the developers released a small teaser about the skirmish game mode just in time for Gamescom this year. This one is a mix of classic features and new ideas, confirmed by the latest demo we played and now by the newest cinematics we got to take a peek at in this video. The text in the description of the video says, "Stay frosty, you never know what to expect." So I am expecting that multiplayer beta, which I have been hoping for since 2023. If this game, with its high production values and great developers behind it, does not top Steam charts and put RTS games back on their rightful throne, I am not sure which one can. I mean, Sins of a Solar Empire 2 made a big splash recently, so I think we are finally going in the right direction. And if you didn't know, the developers of that amazing Star Trek mod called Armada 3 for the original Sins game are going to make the Armada 4 mod for this sequel. So you have that to look forward to as well. And since we are already talking about games with a big fan base, I should mention that Age of Mythology Retold, the massive upgrade and remaster of one of our favorite RTS games, is going to be released very soon on the 4th of September, which is coincidentally the birthday of my own son. So I'm totally going to buy him this as a present and keep his copy nice and hot on my hard drive until he grows up and is ready to play it. And my wife can't do anything about it. Or can she? Now 2 games which are about to be released, and only one of which I could probably let my kid play, are Toy Shire, which releases on the 26th of August on Steam, and Defender Bros, which is actually made by one of my longtime online friends and fellow content creator. Both are on the lighter side of the spectrum, but one has too many bodies exploding into red bits. That would be Defender Bros, in which you can play solo or with friends, and it has some roguelike aspects along with tower defense mechanics. Your aim here is to kill enemies and prevent them from damaging your base, while it does its work on all sorts of different maps. So there is exploration, building of defenses, and survival of course, for you to experience when it releases on Steam on the 2nd of October. As for Toy Shire, it is not set in outer space, but different rooms across a kid's home. It is another type of tower defense gameplay first and foremost, and while I personally don't play such games a lot, having only liked a few ever, I know my viewers do play these. And this one piqued my interest because of its interesting setting and very nice animations and toys, reminding me of Army Men RTS and the 2 other Army Men games, which are on sale right now on Good Old Games. But we will get to sales recommendations later in the video. What is great to see in this one is that you can set up your own soldiers, not just defenses, which can be customized, as well as getting your own hands dirty with the creative mode, which allows you to design your own levels with 100 objects. It put a smile on my face to see old game ideas brought back, and by small development studios no less. But if we go looking for something totally new and different, we can most definitely find it. In this case, it isn't a working game yet, but a tech preview of a modern FPS RTS hybrid. This developer wants to create a 64-player battlefield, similar probably to what we have in Silica, with land, air and sea vehicles of war. He calls it a mix of Battlefield and the Generals. I call it a long shot. Don't get me wrong, it is fantastic to see such ideas prototyped, but from my long experience, these hybrids never seem to manage to find a way to captivate a big audience necessary to produce the game, let alone keep 64-player battlefields alive. But I honestly hope one such project proves me wrong. One indie game which did manage to get funding and fully released, but which I didn't manage to talk about enough on my channel, is the fertile Crescent, which is why I am using this opportunity to turn your attention to it. It has been updated recently, and I think that anyone who loves the ancient world and the old school type of RTS games will enjoy playing it. You have Babylonians, Egyptians, Assyrians to play with in half a dozen game modes, including a campaign, skirmish and multiplayer. It might look very old school, but it also hides some modern quality of life features that will make it much easier to pick up. The amount of base building, including walls and towers with several kinds of infantry units and resource collection, is just enough to keep you playing, but not too much to make it too difficult to micromanage. If, however, you can't get over the graphics, there is one similar and somewhat more modern RTS game in development called Bread and Bravery, which I found on Steam. It does not offer much to look at this stage, besides its feudal theme, settlement building and some units with working combat systems. I will be keeping an eye on this one for you.
New blood refinery under control.
Dying Breed is one indie RTS I have mentioned and showcased before, and for this video I have a great update for you all on this retro design game, which features actually satirical and just a tad bit cheesy FMV sequences.
Piece of cake.
The developer shared some fresh live action scenes with me, but also newest gameplay clips and one soundtrack. Base building is an element we haven't had a chance to see much of before, and I'm happy to showcase it now, along with different factions at play. Everything about this game is retro, from the soundtrack and graphics to the characters in its cutscenes. The world and setting of Dying Breed is built with this in mind, so while you will be able to launch ambitious air, land or amphibious assaults with your troops and go into caves to explore it, you will find it hosts all sorts of people, but also many kinds of monsters. Liquidation is another RTS in development by a very small team that I have an equally small update to talk about. They have posted a few clips about the collision system in their game that is responsible for making sure units don't just run into each other or buildings. So when developers get this right, you get this kind of an effect as units surround enemies or buildings and attack on all sides without piling up in just one direction. This might sound like a small element, but it turns out it is actually very hard to get right. This is one thing developers of Grit and Valor 1949 don't really have to worry about, as their game is played on much smaller scale and much smaller maps. I was surprised I never noticed this game before and no one told me about it in the comments. I mean, it is a real-time tactical game to be sure, but I honestly really liked how it looked and how combat works. There is even a demo for you all to try it out. Its setting is an alternate World War II dieselpunk world in which you are a commander of an elite squad of mechs whose gear and pilots you can enhance over time. Surprisingly, developers plan only single player and there is no mention of multiplayer on its Steam store page. This is definitely not the case with the upcoming full release of 9-bit Armies a bit too far, as there you have several multiplayer modes to play in with your friends or random online strangers. This RTS from Petroglyph comes out of early access on the 26th of August with the fresh and shiny second campaign, meaning you have 24 missions to play solo or in co-op. Additionally, they have recently updated the game with the Survivor mode, which has multiple difficulty settings, options for co-op play, and many waves of enemies for you to obliterate. Do note, they have also worked on the AI and base building menu as requested by players in their feedback. I played it in almost all game modes, solo and with friends, and I have liked its simplicity, old school music soundtrack and fast combat. I want to take a break now from new games and talk about what old RTS games you can buy on sale at Good Old Games. For a very fun older RTS in which you can send big armies information to fight it out on all sorts of terrain, I would recommend Cossacks 3. But do note, the same game is on sale at Steam right now as well. If you prefer a more fantasy setting and some RPG elements, then maybe Heroes of Annihilated Empires might be a better choice for you. I would also recommend you take a look at Anomaly Warzone Earth and its sequel, as both are on sale, even if they are nothing like your regular RTS game, but a reverse tower defense game where you are the attacker. I had lots of fun in them, so you might too. For those of you who prefer smaller scale tactics and combat, a big number of Men of War titles are on sale, including Men of War Assault Squad and Men of War Red Tide. Another very old game and its later sequel called Perimeter and Perimeter Emperor's Testament are also on sale, and a very different RTS experience that you are probably used to. If you want something newer, Starship Troopers Terran Command and its multiple DLCs are also on sale at GOG right now. Lastly, if you want a very simple RTS with just two sides and one lane in which you pit your units against each other, War Pips would be an obvious choice. As for new RTS games I haven't talked about before, I'm going to mention one that comes from an already experienced indie developer who has successfully published several games already. This latest one he called Welcome Back Commander. Very interesting name to say the least, but it fits, considering it is all about you being a military commander and leading a strike team into an epicenter of a deadly plague. Under your command are a few soldiers who you can level up, and you have to manage their equipment and tactical choices as well as their sanity. You do get an active pause to use, so it should make tactical combat in real time more manageable when you get into trouble. I should take some time to talk about the latest update from the developers of ZeroSpace, in which they showed us their planned massive multiplayer galaxy mode called Galactic Warfare. This is where you get to choose your alliance, team up with friends, and conquer territories together for your alliance. In addition to this, they have changed their maps to include stunning snow and ice environments and added more of them. The user interface was also updated along with the visuals of some units and buildings. As for the fourth faction called Zol, they are still working on it and making good progress, so we can expect to see more of them in the future. I am slowly starting to like this one more and more and hope it turns out as good as we deserve. I don't know if you're aware, but I am a big fan of the Majesty game franchise and the kind of gameplay it is based on, with indirect control of heroes and units, base building, and ruling over your own medieval settlement beset on all sides by monsters. This is exactly how Lessaria Fantasy Kingdom Sim is designed to be played, and it even has a playtest you can request to play in on its Steam store page. In addition to heroes, paladins, thieves, and other kinds of bounty hunters who have their own value systems and work for payment or personal pleasure, you also have spells in this game. With those, you will be able to destroy your enemies, aid allied heroes, and summon magical creatures into battle. There is actually one more such game I want to tell you about, but before that, I should recommend a few RTS games on sale at the Steam store. I already told you about Cossacks 3 because it's on sale at Good Old Games at the same time as well, so on Steam you can also get Dust Fleet, an indie-made space RTS with a star map, conquest layer, and lots of progression. I showed it early, but I have yet to give you a full showcase of the release version, like I did for Shrot for example, which is another solo indie project and on sale now on Steam. It also reminds heavily of Dune 2. If you don't already own Supreme Commander games, all of them are on sale with the expansion for the first one. Another older RTS on sale at Steam is Order of War, and this one is set in World War II with 2 fun single-player campaigns. There is even a demo available for download. If you like that setting, there is also Sudden Strike 4 on sale, but do remember these games have no base building. They are all about tactical combat with units and call-in strikes. Lastly, Iron Harvest is on sale with a similar war setting, but this one was created in an alternative dieselpunk reality of 1920, between the 2 world wars, and with the gameplay similar to Company of Heroes. Now about that Majesty-inspired indie game, titled Heroes of Orn Darkness. It now has a demo on Steam, and it might not look as great as the previous ones I talked about, but it does have very similar gameplay features. Here too, you have a kingdom to build and upgrade, while sending out heroes to do your bidding for gold or glory, but also help them in their quests with spells and items they can buy at your marketplace or blacksmiths. Naturally, you tax them all as well. To develop and defend your kingdom, you can research a diverse range of possible upgrades for your economy, defenses and units, while building guard towers next to your buildings. There is even a mana system for casting spells of your own in a pinch. This RTS game news video wouldn't feel complete if I didn't also mention Stormgate, and what's new there is the developers' post about their priorities for the game, especially when it comes to listening to player feedback. So besides a new balance patch aimed to increase the quality of 1v1 leaderboard gameplay, they will also work on improving the campaign missions and try to get the new 3v3 mode released before the end of the year. This is of course just the main stuff, with lots of smaller improvements made across the game. Now, I am sure you remember that at the end of the previous video about new RTS games and news, I teased you about Incarnus Warfare, and since then I made a showcase video of the game's prototype, which I was able to play. For those of you who haven't managed to see that video, it is linked here, but it is enough to say that its lone indie developer wants to make it similar to the classic gameplay of Command & Conquer, but with some of his own twists, like using a single construction unit, resource nodes instead of fields, and even some capture points, which don't win matches but provide extra income. I would suggest you try your best to help the developer by wishlisting his game on Steam and joining his Discord channel, as he is trying to get funding for this game, and that is how we help him do it. Another game I would like to get a chance to play and showcase it for you, especially as its Steam store page only offers screenshots, is titled Front Edge. For now, the info on it says that it is a tactical real-time game set in modern times with many nations' armies involved and will feature some sort of logistics mechanics. It will have both skirmish versus AI and multiplayer for up to 4 players. This is coming from the same developers who made Syrian Warfare and who originally worked on Terminator Dark Fate Defiance. For this one, they envision a system of reinforcements and progress, so that as you advance in a mission and gain points, you can call in more units. It will be interesting to see how this one turns out. Nope, I am not done with totally new games I have found, but this one is more of a tower defense game than a full RTS. It is called D.O.T. Defense, and besides the charming pixel graphics, it has armies for you to fight with, besides the regular towers, as you try to conquer the map and upgrade your own side with the best tech. It's definitely a far more casual game than most on this list. Another game which might look casual at first glance is Toy Tactics, but here you can strategize with hand-drawn formations in half a dozen single and multiplayer modes with 5 different armies who have their own abilities and 6 unique main units. These being infantry, archers, cavalry, heroes, kings and queens. But there are also some special units, animals and siege units to control. This game is coming out of early access on the 19th of September, but there is already a demo you can try out. Its wacky looks are there on purpose to avoid gruesome sides of combat with physical effects and humor. It also has a massive spell tree, letting you try out close to 80 different ones. One more game that has a very pixelated approach to graphic design is Tinycraft, but unfortunately the developers have yet to release gameplay footage of this new world of sword and magic. It is going to have roguelike elements mixed into RTS and 6 races of units alongside 24 heroes and even towers, and from what I have read, both its production and construction will be simplified to focus on fast-paced combat. This is not the case in Block Strategy, for example, where besides roguelike base defense gameplay, you also go into tactical fights to find enough fuel to power your main reactor, all the while combating enemy robots. It has a demo on its Steam store page, so you can already try it out. And when you do destroy those enemies, you can choose upgrades and resources to specialize your units and base buildings in different ways. It also features a system of hero units which you can not only level up, but also augment with different weapons and abilities. The reason why it is named Block Strategy is because you can edit your surroundings and place blocks to stop enemies from using certain paths or remove them to open paths for your own heroes. Lastly, I want to mention that RTS Tactical Warfare, the game whose skirmish and survival modes I have already shown, is soon going to release a single-player campaign story mode. In it, you will have 2 factions and 1 campaign for each. From what I have seen so far of it, the developers have made a great effort to add a lot of scripted sequences, if not cinematics, and made it much more atmospheric compared to the other game modes. I do plan to show you more of this in future videos. No secret hidden game this time around, so thank you for watching and happy gaming!